Taxi driver refused to pick her up. An hour later, she became his boss. What happens when a cab driver refuses to pick up a black woman in the rain, unaware of who she really is? What unfolded next didn't just flip the script. It rewrote the whole damn playbook. Maria James stood under a cold, persistent autumn drizzle at the corner of 116th and Lexington, clutching a container of leftover food. The day had been long, the boss is loud, and the subway smell, as always, was enough to make your eyes water. But she stood firm, shoulders squared, because she knew exactly why she was here. Today she was bringing something more than food. She was bringing hope to Joe, a homeless veteran who slept beneath the station stairs, always calling her the light in that damn tunnel. When a yellow taxi pulled up alongside the curb, she raised her hand, ready to catch a ride. At the wheel was a white guy, maybe pushing 45, with a Yankees cap pulled low, his face set in a permanent scowl like he'd swallowed a nail and forgot how to smile. He slammed the brakes, peered through his rolled-down window, then blinked, cold, detached, like Maria was a bug in his windshield. "Available?" she asked, nodding toward the back seat. He didn't answer. He lowered the window another inch and said flatly, "Shift's over." Before she could even blink, the taxi sped off. 20 feet later, it stopped dead, to pick up an older white woman with her dog, all wrapped in a cardigan, smiling sweetly like the city was her backyard tea party. So yeah, his shift ended, just not for everyone. Maria didn't curse. She didn't pull out her phone and start filming for TikTok. That wasn't her style, not because she lacked fury, but because that fury had simmered for years. Today, she didn't shout. Today, she listened. Something inside her cracked. "They still think they get to pick who counts and who doesn't," murmured a teenage boy to her side as he shuffled toward the station entrance with a bag of chips and a distant look. Then he vanished underground. Maria didn't follow him. She didn't go home. She didn't go find Joe. Instead, she turned to the bus stop, caught the M126, and rode off in silence, thinking, boiling in quiet rage, not anger, but clarity. Because when you're a black woman in this city, even the rain knows when you've had enough. That evening, she sat on the edge of her couch, coat still on, scrolling through emails like a lifeline. And then, URGENT from Human Capital Ventures. "Your project is approved. Confirm attendance Monday. Interim consultant position for city transport reform." She blinked twice, half afraid it was a mirage of hope. Then she paced for 15 minutes, like a caffeine zombie, absorbing the weight of it all. Her proposal, her data on racial bias in taxi rides, her digital monitoring system, created for fair access to services. Approved, accepted, validated. She sank back and smiled, that full, slow smile of someone who knows the journey's just begun. Monday, 9:40 a.m. Maria stood in the glass lobby on Park Avenue, adjusting her coat collar, determined not to stare at the people around her, bankers, lawyers, leather briefcases like status clams. She wore a plain black suit she'd scored on sale last winter. No designer labels, no need to prove anything she hadn't earned. "Maria James," the security guard said, scanning her name. He peered over his glasses, then at his screen, and back at her. A moment of judgment flitted across his expression. She can't be who she says she is, yet he handed her a badge. "Tell the elevator it's smart," he muttered. "If only you were as smart as that elevator, you wouldn't be standing there with a badge and stale coffee," she thought, but stayed silent. She wasn't here to explain anything. She was here to take what was hers. Inside the meeting room, the air was as cold as the vice president of strategy, Jeremy Wong, a white man whose cufflink screamed, "I hate change." He iced the room further when he spoke. "Maria, your idea is radical," he said, emphasizing radical like it was a plague. "But interesting." "Not radical," she replied, spreading printouts across the table. Case studies, graphs showing 72% of ride refusals target black women, passenger testimonials. "Necessary, because if your algorithm rejects 72% of black women, that's not random. That's the system," he scoffed. "And you think you can fix this system with a few policies and an app?" She met his gaze, calm and fierce. "I don't think. I know. Otherwise, why am I here?" Silence built in the room like heavy smoke. Someone cleared their throat. Someone shifted in their chair. Then the board chairwoman, a woman in silver frame glasses, spoke. "We agree. Approved. 3-month trial phase. You lead the project." Maria didn't smile. Her face stayed composed, but inside a fire burned. Today she wasn't asking for a chance. She was claiming it. After the meeting, stepping out into the city sunlight, everything felt different. Not the city, it was the same roar. But now she had real leverage. Legal, structural, undeniable. She had 40 minutes before her next meeting, but no ride in sight. So she raised her hand and flagged a yellow Crown Victoria on 50th and Park. It eased to a stop. She opened the door and froze. He was behind the wheel, that same driver. He recognized her instantly. His eyes went wide, drained of color, as though he'd just seen the ghost of his own conscience. She slid in silently. He flicked on his meter like he was defusing a bomb. They drove in a quiet thick enough to choke on. He stole glances at her in the mirror. She said nothing. She waited. At her stop, she handed him a business card and laid it flat. "You're scheduled for review, Monday, 9 a.m. Personally, he went pale. "What?" he whispered. "I'm your new city transport auditor. Good luck on your interview." She got out, didn't close the door, just walked away while the wind sang her name down the avenue. Raymond Bennett walked into the 21st floor office like a man headed into open court without a lawyer. His suit hung from his shoulders like it belonged to another decade and another man. Shirt faded, collar fraying like a worn-out flag. Hair slicked back with desperation, not style. Face freshly shaven, but his eyes? Those eyes darted like minnows caught in a net. Maria had seen that look before. The look of someone who spent his whole life convinced that the world had an upstairs and a downstairs, and folks like him belonged in the penthouse while everyone else swept the floors. And now he was here, standing at a door where the help sat behind the desk and held the pen. He perched on the lobby chair like it might break under the weight of justice. "Name?" asked the young intern behind the glass. "Bennett, Raymond Bennett." He cleared his throat like he hoped the sound would hide the tremble in his voice. When he stepped into the conference room and his eyes locked onto hers, the air shifted. Just like that. It was the kind of moment that stretches a single second into a whole page of history. His face said it all. "Oh no, not her." "Take a seat, Mr. Bennett," Maria said. Not angry, not loud, just flat, cold, but polite enough to sting. "We'll begin your suitability review in a moment." He sat, first on the edge of the chair. Then slowly, like it might collapse under truth, he sank back. Then he started talking, fumbling. I didn't recognize you that day," he stammered. "The rain was bad. You had a hat on. I couldn't really see." "Mr. Bennett," she interrupted. Calm, precise. "We're not here to debate who you did or didn't see. We're here to assess how you treat your passengers. Specifically, why 47% of your rejected rides in the last 3 months were black women, compared to less than 5% for any other group." He went silent. Under the table, his leg began to shake. Maria laid out the evidence like a lawyer at trial. Printed routes, complaint screenshots, audio logs from dispatch, and then forum posts. Comments posted under the username BennyDriver74. She slid a quote across the table. "I'd rather sit 3 hours with no fare than haul another angry activist back to some war zone where my car's gonna get stripped bare." She tapped the line with her finger. "This you?" He swallowed. "Yeah, but I didn't mean..." "What exactly didn't you mean, Mr. Bennett?" Her voice was steady, surgical. "That black women are a separate class of customer who don't deserve service? Or that your personal bias outweighs your license to operate in this city?" He looked away. Couldn't meet her eyes. "I'm just tired. This job, it's hard. A lot of stress." Maria let out a laugh. A dry, joyless thing. "Stress? You want to talk stress?" She leaned forward. "You're in a climate-controlled cab. Meanwhile, our women are waiting underground, in stations with no AC, pushing strollers, juggling night shifts, walking home in the dark, because drivers like you leave them standing in the rain." He said nothing. "My mother," Maria added, "worked as a nurse for 20 years. Every morning she left home an hour before sunrise because no taxi would drive to the Bronx. Not because she couldn't pay, but because she was black." Ring any bells? The room got heavy. The kind of silence that presses on your chest. "You're not stressed, Mr. Bennett. You're comfortable, too comfortable. And now that comfort is being challenged, and you're calling it unfair?" He finally broke, voice trembling. "I got 3 kids. I've worked since I was 18. If I lose my license, this job, I'm done. No one's gonna hire me. But you're on top now. You got it all. Power?" Maria stood. "Power?" she echoed. "You just now figured that out?" She walked to the window, looked down at the endless street grid of the city, the same streets where he'd refused to stop for her. "When you left me standing in the rain, you had power. You could have hit the brakes, opened that door, done the job you do every day, but you decided, not for her, not today, not that neighborhood, not worth the risk." She turned back. "Well, now it's my turn. And this isn't revenge. It's justice." She passed the intern a document without flinching. "License revoked. Eligible for retraining. Review possible after 12 months. Until then, No access to passenger platforms. He shrunk. Not out of anger, out of collapse. Like the scaffolding that held up his worldview just gave out. Because for the first time, someone he'd deemed unworthy was the one with the final word. After he left, Maria didn't sit. She stood at the window, city noise buzzing beneath her. Cars, sirens, horns, lives. "You're too soft," her mother's voice whispered in her memory. "I'd have put him behind bars." "You're too harsh," said an old coworker's voice. "This isn't how you build a career." "You're a black woman," said every brick in every building of the city. "You don't get second chances." She closed her eyes. No, she wasn't a saint. She didn't forgive everybody, but she wasn't here for vengeance either. She was doing something the world had never done for her, putting black dignity at the center of the system. The next morning, there was an anonymous note in her mailbox. "You're stirring the dust. Keep going." At the city's Department of Transportation, things were already shifting. People who used to dismiss her reports now requested meetings. Journalists reached out. Colleagues who once forgot her name in meetings now asked her to mentor their staff. But Maria knew better than to celebrate too soon. This wasn't an ending. This wasn't victory. This was the opening act. This was when the system realized she wasn't just passing through. She was here to stay. Wednesday morning didn't start with coffee. It started with numbers. Thick stacks of paper spread across Maria's desk, still warm from the printer, like they'd been breathing. She flipped through each page with slow precision, eyes laser-focused, the way a surgeon studies X-rays before a delicate operation. These weren't just numbers. These were stories. Pain, silence, exclusion, rendered in graphs and timestamps. 2 weeks of data from the new taxi driver monitoring system, and the pattern was brutal. Names rose to the surface like rust on an old pipe. The same names, over and over again. She didn't feel joy, not even satisfaction. This wasn't about triumph. This was about order, about setting things right where they'd been crooked for too damn long. The phone vibrated against her desk, sharp and insistent. A city number. "James," she answered, curt and ready. "This is from the mayor's press office. Tomorrow at the Transportation Commission's public session, you're on first. Full room. You'll be heard directly, commissioner included, and the mayor." "Time?" she asked. 9 a.m. "Protocol will be arranged. Press will be present." She didn't blink. Press? Perfect. Let them hear it. Let them all hear it. Let them hear about a system that denied her a ride home, not because she didn't have cash, not because of her destination, but because of who she was. Let them hear it from someone the city left dripping on the sidewalk. Someone who then climbed 21 floors to demand what should have never needed to be demanded. Basic dignity. Thursday morning, 9 o'clock sharp, the conference room was packed to the walls. Reporters angled for camera shots, notepads fluttered, microphones blinked red. The commissioner sat with his silver hair combed like a flag of authority. His expression? Pure skepticism. That special brand of polite dismissal you only earn from white men who think time makes them infallible. "Ms. James," he began, voice dry as stale bread, "your monitoring system has raised concerns within the drivers' union. Our office has received complaints. Many feel pressured." Maria looked straight ahead. No smile, no apology. "Pressure?" she said, voice steady but steel hard. "You know what pressure is. Pressure is standing in the rain for 40 minutes, trying to get home. Being passed by cab after cab because your skin doesn't match the seat. Pressure is missing your kid's recital because no one thought your life was worth transporting. That's pressure. This," she gestured to the papers laid neatly on the table, "this is accountability." She laid out the documents, charts, testimony screenshots, ignored complaints going back years, forgotten stories, finally recorded. "We have names, timestamps, locations, hundreds of ride refusals, thousands of silent violations, wrapped neatly inside what you call standard practice. No, gentlemen, this isn't pressure. This is a mirror, and you just don't like your own reflection." A ripple moved across the room. A cough here, a glance there. One official turned toward the mayor, hoping for some signal, but the mayor sat still, his expression unreadable. Then from the back of the room, a man stood up, white hair, union jacket, visible discomfort. "I'd like to speak," he said, voice tense. "Raymond Bennett, the driver who lost his license. He's a good man. 20 years of service. He's got kids. Was it really fair to end his career like that?" "No appeal?" Maria didn't flinch. "You know him?" "Yes, we all do. Ray's old school." "Then let me ask you this. Did Ray know my mother?" Her voice didn't rise, but the room leaned in. "She was a nurse, left for work at 5 a.m. every day, in the Bronx. For 20 years, she walked half a mile before sunrise because taxis didn't come to her block. Not because she couldn't pay, but because people like Ray didn't think she was worth the stop. Silence, no one answered. The man sat down, slowly. When the session ended, Maria gathered her papers. She didn't look up, didn't seek applause, but then she felt it, that energy shifting in the room, the way tension breaks after a thunderstorm. It wasn't just noise, it was a tension, the real kind. And then came the mayor. This was powerful, he said, smiling in that polished political way. But be careful. You're drawing a lot of heat. Maria tilted her head. Careful? She echoed. I've been careful for 38 years. Careful with my voice, my tone, my walk, my ambition. I've held my breath through insults, swallowed pride like cough syrup. I've been careful long enough. The smile faded slightly. For the first time, the mayor really looked at her. Not as a staffer, not as a minority hire, not as the passionate young voice in the room, as a force. Then go on, he said. We won't stop you. Outside, the morning sun hit her full in the face. It was bright, loud, and unapologetic, just like her. Reporters called her name. Flashbulbs popped. Questions flew. But she didn't stop. She didn't speak. She didn't explain. She walked through that crowd like she had somewhere better to be. Because now, attention wasn't something she chased. It was something that followed her. That night, back at the office, her mail tray held a single unmarked envelope. No return address, no stamp. Just a single phrase scrawled across the front, from those who kept quiet. Thank you. Inside was a photograph. Faded, 1972. A black woman in a nurse's uniform standing on a street corner, holding a cardboard sign. No buses for blacks, no work. Scrawled beneath in careful pen, my mother, she would have been proud of you. Maria stared at the image for a long time. Not with tears, not even with a smile, but with a quiet, burning resolve. The system still fought, still clawed, still denied. But now, she had a voice. She had a name. And more than anything, she had power. As for Raymond Bennett, he sat in a dim union office, staring out the window at nothing in particular. His hands were empty. His life felt paused. For the first time in 20 years, there was no ignition, no fare, no noise. Then someone entered. A caseworker from the Workforce Transition Office. Mr. Bennett, the man said, formal but kind, your application's been accepted. You'll begin training in 3 months. Not as a driver, but as a hotline operator. Helping new hires. Teaching what's acceptable, what's not. Raymond didn't speak, just nodded, slowly. Whether he understood the assignment or the lesson, no one knew. But his eyes? They didn't hold the same defiance anymore. Maybe it was regret, maybe fear, maybe, just maybe awareness. Maria ended her night at a cafe on the corner, one of the few places where they knew her name, served her coffee hot, and never asked why she looked tired. The man behind the counter, a regular, older, with skin like carved mahogany and eyes full of stories, leaned over and said, heard you on the radio. You keep pushing, baby girl. We've been waiting 40 years for one of ours to rise up like that. Maria smiled. I'm not special, she said. I'm just the first who didn't back down. Then she raised her cup, not just to sip, but like a toast, to every woman who stood in the rain and still stood tall, to every ride that never came, and every barrier that finally broke, and to herself, Maria James, the passenger who became the driver of everything.